Hey Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks, man. How are you?
Yeah, dude, I'm doing really good actually. The
That's
first
great.
podcast, the first number one, number
The
episode
first,
one.
do we have a name?
I've got a placeholder at the moment. I went and got all the social medias and stuff for the Heart podcast, but then I
Nice.
feel like I don't want to take all the podcast name onto myself. I could just change all these pages.
So we're definitely still in flux, early days.
Early days, still in flux. Yeah, we could call the podcast something like that. That sounds cool. Still in the flux.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there we go.
we could
I've,
do that.
I've saved you the brain power.
Yeah, exactly. You've worked it out for me. That's brilliant. Topic of today's podcast: top 10 modes of transportation. What do you think about that?
Okay, I've gone for a really balanced approach to this
Okay.
list. So there's a huge variance in what I've got, but I'm
Mhm.
considering things like how fast a mode of transport is, how accessible it is, how expensive it is, and how much infrastructure is needed for it to be effective.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a really good approach. I'm gonna be honest though. I've thought about it a lot this week, but a lot of my thoughts have been encompassed by how much I hate the hoverboard. The hoverboard angers me.
The hoverboard is a shit product
Yeah,
because it doesn't hover.
it's. I feel like you could sue all of these. Like you could, if they weren't majority Chinese factories, you could probably sue them for being disingenuous.
Yeah, that it's the hoverboard angers me on so many levels because I heard that was coming out, and then I just heard about them catching on fire because they use really bad batteries,
Yeah,
and
no,
then
yeah, they're a bad mode of transport too. Like I look at it and I'm like, I'm gonna fall. I've never been on one, but it looks like the kind of thing that I'd fall off far too many times to actually be comfortable learning how to get on it.
yeah, and I've ridden one. I've hovered, um, and it doesn't have any suspension or proper wheels, so you
Uh-huh.
need to be on flat surfaces. So it's like, well, if I want to look cool, I'll just ride a skateboard.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks way more comfortable to ride a skateboard. I've ridden a skateboard once, and I was utterly awful at it. You know, Matt. I was the one with the S2000. I was riding his skateboard in his house, and I got on it, and I did never realize how like slippy the wheels feel when you get on it. Like they're
Yeah,
very frictionless, and I just went flying on my ass.
not bad. Skateboarding feels really cool until you're on anything that isn't a skate park.
Oh yeah, it looks that way. Oh yeah, I just wanted to get my anger. I just wanted to get my anger out about the hoverboard and how it doesn't hover.
Okay. Honorable
Um,
mention of not the hoverboard.
yeah, dishonorable mentions. Number one, the hoverboard. I
do you
have
wanna do you wanna give me number 10?
number 10. I'd like to put the Segway at number 10.
Okay. I can see that. Did you
Like
know that the owner of the Segway killed himself by driving a Segway off a cliff?
I did, and I I've never ridden a Segway outside of those. Do you know when you go to like a museum or something? They've got like a weird like Segway park set outside for the for like children. I've had a few rides around on the children's Segway park, and I'll tell you now, it was a blast. It's like
I
bumper
have
cars, but semi dangerous.
no, I've never ridden a Segway. That's
Oh,
passed me
dude,
by.
dude,
Maybe we
we're
should
gonna
get
have
on
to get
that.
you on a Segway. I think that's
So
a
so
bad transition. Talking about how much we hate the hoverboard and then praising the Segway for its immaculate handles.
yeah, but the Segway is it's highly maneuverable
Mm,
and good transportation for one person, which
yeah.
makes it way more way more effective as a mode of transport than a hoverboard is.
Oh yeah. I
Like you
think
can get some really rugged off-road
yeah.
segways.
I think like Segways were far too like, do you know, like seen as like, oh, we're doing like a corporate get together, we're going on some Segways, go to a Segway park, guys. This is gonna help us with our team building
Yeah.
to become mainstream. They had to make the hoverboard to make Segways mainstream, to make them aloof.
Yeah, and segways never became mainstream because they were too slow to use on roads and they were illegal to use on pavements.
Ugh. Isn't that where the kind of electric scooters going in the UK at the moment?
Yeah, so if you want to have one of those, I'm not sure when the legislation has come in or if it has yet,
Mhm.
but you're going to need at least a provisional license to have one,
How
is the
how
idea.
how enforceable do you think that's going to be at the moment? Because I see loads of kids just riding around electric scooters. Like, I'm scared to be on the sidewalk with them because they are going like a decent speed, enough to probably knock me on my ass.
Yeah, I mean, they can do some 15 miles an hour,
Yeah,
but
that's enough to knock me on my ass.
yeah, I've never felt scared of them though, but
Yeah,
I would like to see how much of an issue they become once lockdown is over and
yeah,
pavements are busier, because I've been out and you see people whizzing about on them
yeah,
and there's loads of room because
yeah.
it's
It's
not
it's
going to
kind of
work in
this.
London.
Yeah, it's kind of the same for like bicycles on the pavement. I'm like, the road's right there. Like I cycle a lot, and I'm like, I can understand why people cycle on the pavement. Cycling on the road's quite scary.
Yeah, but if you can just always do 15 miles an hour, you're probably about as fast as the average cyclist.
Yeah,
You should be on the road.
yeah, exactly. Agreed. Especially when I don't know, it's kind of awkward talking about like bicycle speeds when you can just like pedal harder or pedal softer. But like, do you know like an electric scooter? You're like just holding like the go button. I think.
I think it's got one of those like turtle to hair dials that you can alter your speed at.
Oh, okay.
Like if you've ever been on a sit-on lawnmower or something like that.
Oh yes, yes, yes. I know what you're on about. Yeah. But like,
Yeah,
what self-respecting person is not like just sticking it straight up to the hair and just going for a bull?
you got to experience the high torque if you're in an electric vehicle.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's what it's all about. Just doing wheelies everywhere.
Yeah. What did you have at number 10?
I had a narrowboat at number 10.
A narrow boat.
So a canal boat or a
Oh,
barge.
okay. Irish. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that.
Because I've got things above this which I think are way better than the narrowboat. But after I got to 9, I was really struggling for something.
No, like that's what I was thinking about because I was like, do you know with this list? It's like, oh, number one, two, and three, cars, trains, planes, and then you're like, okay, what comes next? The hyperloop, the rocket ship,
Yeah. So for
walking.
me, narrowboat is number 10 for me because it's actually a mode of transport that you aren't a psychopath for wanting to live in as well.
Agreed.
Living in a narrowboat is really nice, particularly if
Oh
you
yeah,
get
there's like canal, but oh yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah,
No, I,
and they have a top speed of about 3 or 4 miles an hour, but you don't need to go very fast and you don't need to go very far, and they're not perfect, and that's why they're limited by the rivers that they're in, and they generally just are a very relaxing way of going somewhere,
mm.
but they've been superseded by things that I put on the list.
So
Do you want to hit number 9?
yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like my segue is kind of lame now, in comparison to the canal boat. But let me ask you, how have you classified your things? Like, do you clump cars and like vans together?
Yeah, I've not gone because I think about 5 of my answers would be different types of cars.
Oh yeah, my number one's just Mazda Miata. I'm just gonna preface that one.
And number 2 is Mazda Miata with the roof up.
Yeah, all the top four are all the different marks of the Mazda Miata.
The 5th is an S2000.
Yeah, that goes all the way down, and then somehow the Segway is beating the Pagani Hyura.
Just for accessibility.
Yeah, just for accessibility.
Yeah. So I've ended up for classifying things that are distinctly different, and I've clumped 2 things together for one answer because they are the same method of transportation, but
Mm.
they are for different things.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I've got car as car, plane as plane, and so on and so forth.
Oh yes. Like I've put everything in like an umbrella term.
Yeah.
Um. So you've got Canalbo down there. And I'm gonna go one up, and I had to put it quite low on the list. But like, do you know like cargo ships?
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
that's my number 9.
Do you want to
They
go into that?
Oh yeah, like the modern world would struggle to kind of exist, especially in like the Western Hemisphere, without the cargo ship.
Hmm.
But it's so far down on the list because the amount of greenhouse gases that they produce for one, and they kind of like subsidize the like I would say like the exploitation and the kind of moving over of all the like manufacturing overseas.
Definitely. I don't know if I agree with them being really bad for the environment because they are in terms of their raw output of emissions, but
Mm,
in terms of transportation goods per ton to
mm.
emissions, I imagine they'd probably be quite low.
Yeah, do you know what? Now you say that, I kind of assume so because it's like, do you know when you read like an article and it's like cargo ships around the world produce more greenhouse gases than Greenland? You're like, man, that's kind of scary. I think it's because they use like a really odd fuel. It's like a black sludge, kind of like industrial fuel that's quite bad for the environment.
Yeah, but no, they're definitely a good choice, and they are needed for modern society.
Oh yeah, definitely. What did you put at number 9?
I put the scooter, just the regular old pushable scooter.
Oh, dude, yeah, I agree. I agree. Too much childhood memories.
It just they're good,
Mm,
and I don't have skateboard on my list because
mm,
skateboards are so bad at getting around.
mm,
Scooters are actually pretty good,
mm,
and they're so cheap and they're so easy to repair. They have very few like moving parts.
mm,
They're just something that you can keep going forever or get a new one if it's too badly broken.
mm.
And yeah, they're just a generally all right option, which is where I'm at for 9.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it higher on the list because I've sustained many childhood injuries. Do you know when you pick your scooter up and it like swings around and destroys your ankle?
Yes. Yeah.
That is the most. That is the one of the worst parts about scooters.
I definitely agree with that.
So
I
like
don't have I don't have a lot to say about scooters though.
you,
They just use the same infrastructure as everything else, and they're
yeah, that's
cheap.
fair enough. Like, have you seen? Like, I saw some. Do you know? Because it snowed recently. I saw some people with like scooter snowboards. Like, do you know, like a snowboard with a big handle?
Okay.
Yeah. So they were like snowboarding around, but it was kind of like safe in a way. They were like less not safe, but I mean like probably like more for
More
beginners.
stable?
Yeah, but a lot
Yeah.
more stable because they had like a big handle on it.
Yeah.
They were vibing.
Um,
I guess there's loads of subsections of the scooter because you got them like weird 3-pronged scooters, you know, with like the 3 wheels.
yeah, with the two wheels at the front.
Yeah, there's loads of different scooter variants now.
Yeah, I think that's health and safety gone mad though, the three-wheel scooter.
I don't know. Do you know? Because like, do you know when I saw like children riding like normal scooters without the 3 wheels? Like they don't seem any less stable. I mean, like how like it's quite hard to fall off a scooter even as a child. Like you just put your foot back on the ground.
Yeah.
Like most children I see that can't like balance well on a scooter, they just like scooting like with their foot just like down by their side, like barely bringing it off the floor.
Hmm.
I guess it's
Yeah,
like, would you prefer like, do you know, like with a bicycle, like you got the stabilizers though? Is that like the stabilizers for a scooter?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the three-wheeled scooter has arrived in society because of middle-aged parents focus groups
Yeah, because like
are
I had
going,
that.
how do we make this safer?
Yeah, like I never had a 3-pronged scooter. My parents just gave me a scooter and said off you go, and you just kind of learn to do the scooter. I don't remember it. No one ever taught me how to ride a scooter. They're quite intuitive, especially for children.
Yeah, and I definitely remember riding a scooter was just something that I did instantly,
Yeah,
whereas riding a bike without stabilizers was a real skill that I had to learn.
yeah, exactly. Because it's kind of awkward to balance on a bicycle.
Yeah,
I
it
feel
can
like
be.
I'm taking this bicycle. I need to stop with the bicycle conversation because it's higher up on my list. I'm like, I
It
like
is.
the bicycle.
I'm a huge fan of the bike.
Do you have bicycle on your list?
I have bicycle on my list.
Oh, I'm excited. I want to know where you put bicycle on your list.
I put
Um,
bicycle on the Segway to number 8. I put it eighth.
you put it eight?
I
My
put it eight
bicycle's way higher than that.
because I think it's almost the best form of human propelled transport. It's just so good, and a bike can be so versatile. Because if you look at the distance that you can cover in a day on a bike, it's yeah, you could easily do 100 miles.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, easily.
And a bike can be as cheap as new as like a couple £100,
Mm.
and there's nothing else that competes in that way.
I like. I personally put the bicycle higher up on the list because it's the mode of transportation for a very long time, and it's had like a lot of like. I put it higher up purely because of the history of the vehicle.
Okay, I've considered the history a lot less.
Oh yeah, because I'm like, dude, so many people like it was the like outside of horses, that was like the bee's knees of transportation.
Yeah, back when cars used to have people with flags walking in front of them to let people know that there was a car coming,
Oh
a bike,
yeah,
a no-brainer.
yeah. But do you rate the motorcycle higher than the bicycle?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The what do you think? Do you know? Because we had that initiative like a while ago where there was like those rent-a bikes. What do you think of those like rent-a bikes? Because they're doing that with like electric scooters and now electric bikes. What do you think of them?
I really I really like the rentable ones,
Mm.
but they only make sense in the really
Mm.
densely populated areas in cities,
Oh yeah.
where and also not in London, because London's public transport is so good that
Oh
I'm
yeah.
never really going, oh well, do you know what? I'd rather actually like use my body to get somewhere.
Mm.
I'd much rather take the tube because I'm
Yeah.
lazy.
Yeah, dude, the tube is amazing. Like, I just go everywhere on the tube when I'm in London.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so
Whereas
cheap. It's ridiculously cheap as well.
whereas the rent a bike um, schemes, it has a huge difference in how effective it is based on what city it is.
Mm. Like, I have.
Because
You go ahead.
in Sheffield,
Mm.
biking is hard because it's so hilly.
Yeah, and Sheffield city centre isn't that big.
No.
Like, do you know like the interesting stuff? Do you know as like big cities go? Like our city centre's quite small, say in comparison to somewhere like Leeds or York. Like
Yeah, it's definitely no bigger than like 1 square kilometer or something.
yeah, like I just walk everywhere in city center because there's nothing like there's not many interesting things and they're all like densely packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why there's not really like a bus system in the center. There's like one area where all the buses go and then you can just walk everywhere.
And there's the tram line as well, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. But the tram line's just like, oh, we go to this like the tram system's weird in Sheffield because it's like we've got a really good tram system for like one part of Sheffield and then the rest there's just no trams.
Yeah. And it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, so we had that rent a bike scheme. And I saw like there was a guy who had a bike that had like a trailer on it and you'd go around and like collect all the rent a bikes to like put them back where they're supposed to be.
Okay.
So we had a
So they're
bike.
not just being
Yeah.
littered around.
Yeah, he had his bike for his bikes.
Meta bike.
Meta bike. Right. For
You're
number
not
8,
right.
I have put the scooter myself.
Okay. So we're pretty closely linked on that.
Yeah. Like I really like the scooter. It's part of a lot of my childhood stuff. I mean, did you ever for like the bicycle and the scooter like link them together a bit? Did you ever get like a plastic bottle that you found off the street and like jammed it into the wheel so it sounded like a motorbike?
Yes, I used to do that.
I guess that's why the motorbike has gone like so high, like gone higher up on the list because why would the bicycle be better than the motorcycle if we all wanted it to be a motorcycle?
Yeah, well, the fact that there are things that could make a motorbike worse than a regular bike,
Mm,
more mechanical complexity, the fact that you have to have a license and insurance to have it and use it
mm,
makes it worse for some people.
mm,
Like, you can get an electric push bike now that will, it will send you along at 15 miles an hour, which is fast enough for most things. That isn't just
mm.
like a long range
Oh,
commute.
dude, those electric bikes are genuinely freaky. They creep me out. Do you know when you like have ridden a manual bike your whole life? Where I used to work, the manager there, she got an electric bike to commute to and from work, and that creeped me out incredibly when I got on it, because it just kind of like you just start pedaling and like it's really hard to get going, and then it just kicks in and just zooms you forward. It's a
Oh,
really weird feeling.
I thought it would just be a little bit of power supplemented on each pedal.
Oh no, it kinda, but it's very because it's very like linear, like it doesn't drop off like when you're not like putting force down on the pedals. It likes to keep you going all the time. Like it does just like zoom you off as soon as you start like that pedal. It just goes zoom and like 100, like 0 to 100 really quick.
Instant torque again,
Oh
electric
yeah,
bike.
but it's really relaxing. Like
Yeah.
you can just chill. You put very little effort in at all. You just chill. I get overtaken all the time when I go to like the Peak District for a cycle by like middle-aged people who have these electric bikes, and they're like, I'm struggling to go up this hill. It's really tough because I'm sweating, and then they'll just be like sat down, just like, oh, this is the nicest day. It's such a sunny day. I'm just enjoying the fields. I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish that was me.
Yeah. And the other thing that's super nice about bikes is just it's the ability to just weave in and out of traffic
Mm.
and hop on and off curbs and things like that.
Oh yeah,
It just make you so mobile.
oh yeah. Right. Do you want to segue over? And we keep saying segue. I think I've put it forward as number 10, and now everything's a segue from number 10. Goodness me.
I forget that Segway is actually a term for transitioning to something and not just.
Yeah, I think we need to stop saying it because I don't want to be like, I don't want to go, oh man, we're making, like, I don't want to, like, do you know when I'm listening to like a podcast, I'm like, I don't want any puns. No puns, or I'm turning the podcast off. I'm a harsh critic.
I'll give you something that turns the podcast off.
Yeah, exactly.
Entering the station at number 7, we have the train.
Do you know what? We started it, we might as well carry on.
Okay. Yeah.
What have you
So
got?
at number 7, the train.
Here's where I found it difficult to do my top 10 because there's so many cool modes of transportation. And I love the train so much.
I think the train is excellent, is one of the most effective forms of transport. But the main issue for me with it compared to everything else that I have up on this list is the amount of infrastructure is required to make it functional.
Oh yeah.
And just the costs that you have to have in order to get a train system anywhere near functional is enormous. So even though the train can be one of the most effective forms of transportation for land, the societal cost is actually quite high as a mode of transport.
Oh yeah, you struggle to. There's so many really interesting train ideas out there, like new and innovative types of trains, but no one wants them because the amount of you got to lay down new rails, because all the rails that are on the ground were put there back in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, so those rails were designed for the diesel trains called the 125s because their speed was 125 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The wheels on them, on those trains and the trains that England still currently runs, are a little bit sloped. So the reason why you can't have a faster train and the reason why HS2 needed a new track and so on was because if you go faster than that, you start to get this effect where the train carriages start to wobble and then it will just eventually at a certain speed derail itself.
Goodness me.
So you do need really good infrastructure. I want to go to Japan just to go on a bullet train.
Oh yeah, same. Me and my friend Ed, we're planning to go to Japan. We were planning to go, I think it was this year, but we've pushed it back, I think, a couple of years now to like hopefully freely go, and then it'd be nice and we can enjoy everything without having to worry about, still like lingering effects of COVID and what we can and can't do and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a while. Just socially, people getting back to the normal.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be weird. Like even when I'm like shopping, now, and like if someone comes in my bubble, my like 6-foot bubble, I'm like, what are you doing? It's COVID. You don't come near me. Don't. And I think that even when they alleviate, like the first time we go back to Corp, which is a nightclub, like dude, imagine being in there. I would have an anxiety attack and break down.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to get my London elbows re-greased because you got to get used to close contact with people if you're in a major city, and right now I've just been doing everything I can to avoid them.
It was interesting actually because I had to go down to London on a business trip. Not this lockdown, but I think it was no, it wasn't a lockdown. We were out of lockdown at the time, but it was while there was still a lot of strict rules in place. And going around the stations and stuff in London, I found that like everyone really did keep their distance.
Yeah, I found that as well when I was in London.
Oh yeah, but yeah, going over to number 7. I've got like this is where it gets really difficult. I've got the sailboat.
Oh, okay.
Like I've differentiated between like the commercial like cargo boat and like the people's sailboat, because like, do you know, for like an individual boat, like they were extremely useful throughout like a lot of history. Like the boat was like the thing to do. Like you couldn't go anywhere without a boat because it was either boat or horse, and boat was exceptionally cool.
I kind of like boats, but I'm not a fan of the individual boats. So things with an outboard motor and sailboats and things.
Oh yeah.
Like they're cool, but I don't like how easily things can go wrong on boats compared to other modes of transport. I and also I just know personally, I know people that have owned things that are really simple, like rowboat, and they've spent loads of money just keeping the wood intact.
Oh my goodness! Like, yeah, I can imagine that that's going to be like an absolute pain to keep intact because of the amount of just like what seawater does to rock. I can imagine it does it to boats.
Yeah, and you just have to keep it absolutely perfect, or be ready to really pale water out at a rate of knots.
And they definitely are not the safest modes. Like, do you know, if you're like, I've just finished reading Life of Pi, and it does like, and I'm like, okay, sailboats are kind of scary. You know what? If you're out in the middle of nowhere, there's with sea shanties becoming more popular than ever, there is many a sea shanty about people just getting lost at sea.
Yeah, and also the fact that as soon as you've sailed a little distance, you're suddenly very stranded and isolated from the rest of the world.
Oh yeah.
If things go wrong.
That's something I always admired, about the old like captains and stuff like that, old sailors. But navigating the waters with old maps and old ways of navigation, like I've grown up the entire life having a GPS, like I know where I am on the planet like all times. Like having to do it by old methods must have been so incredibly difficult.
Yeah, and aiming for a country based off what constellation you can see in the sky is pretty big dick energy.
Oh yeah, like imagine how many boats must have got lost because like the sailor accidentally brought autumn's like sky map instead of like summer's, and they went in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Oh, I do think that's definitely true. But no, I can't see it at number 7 personally. I think
Oh, would you put it a
it's
lot lower?
it's not on my list.
That's fair enough.
And I I would have. Well, I mean, I suppose I have narrowboat, which is a personal boat, but it's a specific type rather than sailboat.
Like, do you know, for me and everything else, I put umbrella terms, but for some reason I've just gone like boats. You can't umbrella term a boat.
Yeah, weirdly, I have actually done the same.
Like, why? There must be something about boats.
I also view sailboats and yachts and the like very much as personal toys for rich people.
Mm.
I don't know anyone that actually uses a boat to commute because they're called ferries. Uh, you know, no one just crosses the Thames to get to work, or the amount of people that cross the Thames to get to work is very minimal compared to the amount of people that use the tube or roads.
Do you know what? I think you're marginalizing an entire like career path of being a sailor.
I don't think I'm marginalizing people, and I literally remembered as I was making the point about nobody uses the Thames to transport. I was like, no, people do that. I have done that myself. Oh.
What did you put 7?
7 was train for me.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? No, we're going over to 6 now. What was your number 6?
Motorbike. And
Dude, we did it. I have
We-
got motorbike at number 6.
I think it's extremely good in niche circumstances, and it's very good at transporting you. But it's so much more deadly than other
Oh yeah.
modes of transport. So I had to de-rank it for that.
I've put number 6. Mine's at number 6 because it's just so cool. Like, you look at a motorcycle, you're like, dang, you're cool. They come off the bike with their like leather jacket because they've got all the padding in it. They look ripped, and you're like, dang. I wish I was as cool as you. I wish I was like, oh yeah, I don't care about the danger. I'm just so cool. I ride a motorbike. I'm like, oh, cool. I want to do that. But I won't.
What do you think about the coolness of people that have 50cc mopeds?
I don't want to say. I don't want to answer that question because it's very far down. It's low down. Especially, do you know, like the ones where they've got like the clapped out exhaust as well?
The hairdryer exhaust, yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, I can't talk about the hairdryer exhaust with the car I drive, but definitely a low down. That, do you know what? I think we should split them off. 50cc mopeds with fat exhausts are on dishonorable mentions.
Okay, nice. No, but I think motorbikes for me earned a spot on this list purely because of their ability to get in and out of traffic on roads.
Yeah.
I have never been more jealous or envious of someone than I am when I'm sat in traffic in a car and I see a motorbike just filtering through.
Oh yeah.
Or a motorbike that can use bus lanes. You can use bus lanes all the time on motorbikes.
Exactly. The low emissions, the running costs of them are usually quite small. They don't chew through a lot of petrol. The environment, you know, as petrol powered things go, they're quite environmentally conscious. They're just good. They're good vehicles. I mean, if I was like going back to being 17 again, and I was trying to, 18. I think I was like trying to commute to my first job, having to take 2 buses. I would have just done it. If I went back, I'd do a CVT and then just grab my little moped and use that to get to work every day. It'd be way easier, way cheaper.
Definitely. I'm actually thinking about when I come to selling my my MX-5 sometime this year.
No, not any time this year, man.
Sorry.
Ban from boys.
I might buy an electric motorbike, something equivalent to a 125 commuter.
How I haven't really heard anything about electric motorbikes.
It's because they're super niche. They're a niche part of a already smaller part of the transport network.
Oh, how?
But I'm looking at them and I'm going, this is a really good idea. You can get them with like 90 miles range. They cost about $2,000, and they will cost you nothing to run.
I love it. You've already told $2,000 to buy. That's pretty cheap. Do you know, like that is pretty good. And you just plug it in when you get home, I guess.
Yeah, just plug it in overnight and it'll be ready to go.
Yeah, that's
And it'll cost you maybe £1 or £2 to recharge.
I think if my range of what I had to do in Sheffield was any bigger than just going to, like, if I came up to you guys much more frequently, I'd probably get like a little motorcycle.
Yeah, can see that. Because one of the things that does hurt my pocket with owning an MX-5 is the MPG is just, it's never really more than 25.
Oh no, it's bad. It's even worse on the Mark ones, man. Like, for someone who doesn't have to drive to work, I fill up like once a month, and I don't like. I haven't like lockdown has saved me from petrol costs because I'm not driving to do anything other than like a weekly shop. But when I was like just driving casually and I was going out like to the Peak District and stuff, like I was having to fill up once a month, and I was like doing nothing, just casually driving.
Yeah, the MX-5 is the first car that I filled up 3 times in 1 week.
Oh, 3 times? What were you doing?
I was just driving to Buckingham and back.
Oh, well, that'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's that? I think it's 220 round trip.
Oh my, yeah, that'd do it. I remember when we went to Whitby, I had to fill up before we went, when we got there, then when we got back.
Yeah, it was rough. My bank account hurt for that.
Goodness. So what are you thinking about number 5? Because I've got an interesting one. I've got something that I've put that I think I've deranked it a little bit by accident. Like I think it should be number 1, really. In like, okay, if there were peasants still living, still like 1500s or prior peasants still alive, they would be at my house with pitchforks and torches, ready to burn me alive for putting this at number 5. And that's got to be the horse.
The horse.
The horse.
I am an avid hater of horses. I think horses do not deserve a place on the road, and they're awful, and they crap everywhere, and they get spooked by small insects. I do not want to put myself on that animal.
Do you know what? It's like weird because like some horses get spooked by like small insects, but there were like horses in the First World War that we like used they were used a lot in the First World War, horses.
Yeah, we've got snowflake horses.
Millennial horses.
But asking for better rights and working conditions.
I've put them on there purely for the history of the horse. I mean, I think I've put history like quite high on the pedestal when making this list. But the horse is like the transport for the common man going back like a very long time. Yeah,
the horse definitely made civilization a lot better for the Middle Ages.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But for me now, nah.
Yeah,
people exactly. That own horses are just crazy horse girls.
Yeah, the taming of the horse is probably one of like the biggest moments in human history for like relative progression with how much that like helped. That was the big boom. That was like the Industrial Revolution for the time, I feel.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, I mean, I was reading this book. I was trying to learn how to bake bread a lot better than I am doing at the moment. And she talks a lot about the history in the book. And she talks about how a lot of people, like, when they were milling their own, like, grain and stuff, when they had these home, like, small mills, like, the offcuts and, like, the hard bits of the wheat, they would, like, keep them behind because they had to keep the horse fed. And keeping the horse fed was just important as keeping them fed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was way more integral to their survival if the horse was all right.
Oh yeah, I bet like there was a lot of people where their entire like livelihoods depended on this horse being healthy. I wonder how many people's lives were demolished by their horse just getting ill and couldn't being able to afford a new one.
Yeah, but nowadays it's just horses sore. ice engines, and we're just like, I'm gonna lose my job.
I think like horses also go under like what you were talking about in with sailboats. Like now they're just kind of like a sign of, oh, you're quite wealthy, aren't you? Having a few horses on your homestead.
Yeah, they're cost prohibitive for a lot of people. Like, and also, I would feel largely uncomfortable just leaving a horse outside of an office and then just riding it back to my house.
Imagine like your workplace would definitely deduct some money for cleaning costs out of your wage at the end of every month.
100%. Yeah, I don't think it's feasible. I don't like them. And
we're already in the middle of the list. This is quite interesting. What have you got for number
5? Just a peeve. Horse owners that when they go on public roads, right, they wear those high-vis, police-coloured high-vis jackets that say polite on them.
Oh no, dude! The same with like motorcyclists. They have the same thing that says like polite, and then you're like, oh no.
And you're there, and you're like, I'm probably like 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, no more than 5 miles an hour ever. Yeah. And you're just like, and then you see it, and it's fine. And I wish there was a way that I could annoy the person on the horse without. Because if there was a way that I could do that, I would totally do that.
What, like dangle a carrot out the window from a fishing pole and see how far it follows you?
Carrot on a stick. Just carrot on the stick, high revs. What wins? The hunger or the scare?
The horse goes into VTEC. God, we are not advocating for animal cruelty. Please don't hang carrots on a stick out a window, please.
This is a public service announcement. My number 5 is I have the shipping cruise liners. Those boats.
See, we talked about like the shipping container light ships, but cruise liners?
I think cruise liners are pretty good for moving the amount of people that they do in extreme levels of comfort.
Dude, I didn't know if you would count it as a cruise ship, but you know those, like you can get a boat trip, like the boats are quite big, and I went on a boat trip from, I think it was, from one of the ports, and we went over to Brussels in Belgium.
Yeah.
And that was not an extreme level of comfort.
Okay. I will reiterate that I've only ever seen the adverts and I've never been on a cruise ship, but you see like those P&L cruise line that look like little cities that float.
They are definitely like on a different class of like the just a transport ship where you get like, and you pay for like the economy room, and it's just like 2 bunk beds, and like it couldn't have been bigger than like 3 meters by 3 meters if it was that. Like there was a bunk bed, like a sink, and a tiny cubicle for a toilet, and then there was like a meter squared of like floor space.
Yeah, no. Boats are highly variable, but I think particularly with shipping, I basically just wanted to put big boats at number 5.
Oh yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, shipping's too important, like you said, at number 9.
Because like for me, do you know when like it's a weird type of beauty when you're on these ships and you're on the deck and you can't see any land and there's like not a cloud in the sky and it's just like just a blanket of like stars above you. That's really nice.
I wouldn't know. The largest boat I've been on was a ferry from Kent to Calais.
I think that's the word I was looking for. A ferry. I was on a ferry.
Yeah, probably that.
A ferry.
And I was just horribly seasick because I was playing Dance Dance Revolution in the arcade. And
that is not the perfect one. Do you know if you're going to get seasick? I think Dance Dance Revolution is like up there for like the worst games to induce it.
I just listened to some late 90s like Japanese pop that was on there. Just danced my little heart out. Probably got a B or something. And I was just like, I need to go like to the flight deck and like just there. I really don't feel that.
like when I didn't get seasick on the way there, but I did get it on the way back. But that was after like I think it was like 5 days of constant drinking, and I think like that had done my soul in enough for me to get like not badly seasick, but seasick enough that I wanted to throw up.
Yeah, I don't think I quite threw up, but I was
Mm.
pretty close.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was rough.
Number 4 for me.
Do you Yeah.
Oh, we said we were gonna carry it going. Riding in to number 4, the bicycle.
Nice. Okay. So you put it 4 higher than mine.
Mm. I don't know if you see my profile pic here on Discord, but that was one of the most like grueling cycle rides I'd ever been on.
I've been pretty lethal once.
Oh yeah, I think it was. What was it? It was like it was 20 some. This thing was like 21 miles, and it was just we went up to Stanage Edge and then like round and back, and it was just like the whole way there was uphill, and we had like 5 seconds of downhill, and then it was uphill again for like another couple hours.
Oh, that's rough.
But it was a good trip. But like by the end of it, like I was just dead. I was like really dead.
I definitely enjoy cycling a lot. I enjoy cycling a lot more than 8th would suggest.
Mm.
I think in terms of enjoyment, if that's how I was ranking it, push bike would be higher.
Oh yeah, that's why I've put it higher because I enjoy the push bike so much.
Because one of my favorite days out was when I went to something called the Sky Ride, which was a Sky sponsored event in Leicester.
Mm.
And they closed off major roads in the city, and you would get entered into prizes every time you did a lap of the city.
Oh,
And
cool.
there was just generally cool cycle-based, fitness-based stuff going on.
Oh, dude, I'd love to do something like that. That sounds like super fun.
But the thing is I had brought down my bike that I used to ride to school on at the time.
Okay.
It was at that age where boys are just like assholes to each other.
Okay.
And the amount of times I would go out and get ready to ride my bike home, and the batteries and the tires would be completely flat.
Oh no!
So I started bringing a pump to school, and then I just got fed up with that, to a point where I asked my next door neighbor who owned a cycle repair shop, "Is there anything that we can like do about this?" And he was like, let me see your tires. And he was like, I will swap you a pair of solid tires if you let me have your like inner tube air tires. I was like, yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
So I was rolling around on this mountain bike with solid tires around the city centre of Leicester, just sweating so much.
Oh, dude, that couldn't have been good.
Yeah, and that was rough. And it does ruin the ride, having solid tires. It really does.
Dude, tubeless, I think it's the way to go now.
Yeah?
Yeah, like you get a puncture, you've got a little bit of puncture goo in it like fills it up, you just pump it up a bit, like for whatever. Like you don't even lose that much air, you don't even need to pump it back up, you just keep going.
I'll have to look into that. I've not actually looked at bike tech in a while.
Oh yeah, I mean if you there's some do like sometimes like you can just get the tires that you've got on now and then do them tubeless, but that's only for like specific stuff. So you just have a look into it. It's really cool.
Yeah. That's cool.
What you got number 4?
The plane.
Dude, mine's a bit higher. I have got the plane on there.
I feel like the plane is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good vibes.
But yeah, the plane is just the best way of moving people a very long distance.
Oh yeah, and like if you want stuff quickly, planes are pretty good. Cargo planes are pretty decent. They move a lot of stuff per year.
Yeah, and also they move you at what is it? It's like 500-600 miles an hour or something ridiculous.
You ever nervous on planes?
Pardon?
You ever nervous on planes?
Nah, I'm one of those people that's like, you should always be calm. These are statistically the most safe things in the world. Blah blah blah.
Oh. I feel really sad. Do you know for our friend Matt, not S2000 Matt, Miata Matt, because he learned to become a pilot and then entered the worst economy to become a pilot.
Oh, really? That's a big yike.
Yeah, I think he became a pilot, and then like a year later, COVID.
Oof.
Just as he was just about to get a job like as a pilot, and then they were like, "No, we can't hire you anymore." We're like, "COVID,
We have zero money.
we have
We
zero money." But he's
we,
gonna
we
get a
have
job at like
1%
a private
traffic.
airline firm.
Yeah,
Like,
that's really rough.
yeah, really rough. Planes always precede the greatest vibes of all time.
Yeah, because most people associate planes with holidays.
Oh yeah, you've had what's the best holiday you've ever been on via plane?
Australia, 100%.
Oh, dude, I forgot you
2017.
went to Australia. I'm so
That
jealous about your Australia trip. That sounds like a really good trip.
yeah, that was so good.
Like,
Just driving up and down
mm.
the east coast of Australia was actually a nutty holiday.
Did you do a lot of climbing while you were there?
Not a huge amount though.
Oh,
I
okay.
did go to Uluru though in the centre.
Oh, dude, cool.
I didn't climb it though because our tour guide kind of guilted us into not climbing it because they said the Aboriginal people would be very, very sad if we climbed this rock.
Meanwhile, there's people on top of it like, hello.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this.
You made the right decision, I feel.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those things. Like, do you know, especially when you're like a tourist, it's like a massive. Like, I feel like it's a massive dick move to just go and like, oh, I've come to look at your like sacred thing. Can I touch it?
Can I climb it?
It's
I
got a
want to be
sick root
a
on
cop. Should we go to number 3?
Oh yeah. All right. I've got the train. I love trains. Love trains so much.
I can see the train being here, but I can't justify it any higher in my mind than third.
Mine's purely there because I love trains. I just love trains. My dad worked on the railway like most of his life. Then I got it. My first job is in a model railway shop, which really cemented like how much I actually liked trains. I've been train spotting like a fair few times with like growing up with me automat.
Hmm.
That was good.
I've never been into trains as such. My granddad was hugely into trains.
Mm.
And I remember setting a not a small part of his garden on fire with methylated spirits as a child because we didn't put enough trailers on this model train and it just flung off at a corner and
Oh
all
no.
the fuel spilt out onto the grass.
Oh no.
But that was a lot of fun.
Oh dude, it
Uh,
sounds it. Dude,
but again, trains are too expensive for me,
oh
particularly
yeah.
in this.
They are to me like again I admire the amount of work, dedication that went into designing these things. I mean, I love watching this. I'm very lucky to live next to a main like railway that the steam trains go on when they're doing their rounds, like especially around Christmas. It is I find it like really beautiful to see all these steam trains.
Like the Flying Scotsman and things.
Oh yeah, I think they are marvels of engineering to me. I just think they're so beautifully designed. A lot of modern trains now are designed with like a lot of functionality in mind. But even though the steam trains were built with a lot of functionality in mind, they are still like beautiful creations. It's kind of like how I feel with classic cars versus modern cars. Like
Yeah,
because
I
they
can see
didn't care
that.
that much, like as much about aerodynamics, and they didn't understand it as much as we do now. The designs were a lot more beautiful because they didn't have to take that kind of efficiency into consideration.
And also safety.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like there's a lot like I wouldn't trade modern cars. I wouldn't like say, "Oh, get rid of all modern cars on the road," because that would just be asking for more people to die. But it is nice that we still have these relics that we like to keep around for like just to
Like
look at.
like Mark 1 Mazda Miatas.
Yeah, like Mark One No, that's a feat of Japanese engineering. You can't find a safer car. Everyone should drive a Mazda Miata.
That car, if it was released today, would not pass NCAP.
It would, I don't even think mine's gonna pass emissions next week when I take it to MOT. I'm worried. I'm fearing.
Yeah. Not great.
Imagine it wouldn't pass to today's standards, and it doesn't pass to then standards. How sad.
Yeah, I paid £330 road tax for mine this year.
Dude, I'm winning then. Mine's only 250. Win.
What? It's because you've got 90 horsepower and I've got 140.
Come on, man. You don't have to bring it up. You don't have to tell everyone in the podcast that I've got the slowest car in the group.
I'll take the 80-pound L to have I'll win.
I just like. Do you know what? I wish it was just a bit faster, but I think I would die. I don't have the brain cells to drive a fast car.
I realise that an MX-5 is about as fast as I should be driving.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm just gonna get to the point where I'm like, okay, I need like a family like sedan or estate or something because I'm growing up and I need it. And then I'm just gonna be like, why has this got so much horsepower?
Yeah, you're gonna buy some mid-range saloon car with 380 horsepower.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, I've just bought it because I need to move some stuff. Why have all these big estates got so much horsepower? Dude,
I know.
they build like family saloons and stuff like estates with so much horsepower because they assume that you like need to move your family, and like a lot of stuff. So they like smack it full of horsepower because they're like, oh yeah, it needs this much power. But like, do you know when like a middle-aged mum's like taking a like mum wagon to like the shops and she hasn't filled it up yet? She's speeding down the highway.
Barely touching the gas.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the zooming by.
I'm just getting gapped by some random BMW X5.
Oh god, that happens too often to me.
Yeah.
Like you're just driving, like you see them at the stoplights. You're like, okay, let's go. Like, and they're like, let's go. I'm not gonna let this boy racer take me. And then you're just driving by and you just hear like their turbo swirl up, like, no.
Oh. Have you got anything else to add to your bronze place?
No, I've given it the bronze medal. I'm proud of the infrastructure my country has.
I'm not, but I can see why trains. We've been definitely taking an L over the past few years.
We've been taking an L since the Industrial Revolution on trains.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
What's your number bronze place?
Bronze position. I've gone for helicopter.
I have clumped that with airplane. Because
Okay.
I couldn't find space to put them both on.
I think that helicopter is on here and above plane because it adds way more. It adds a new thing, and that is the mountain recovery and rescue. And services such as that you just can't get with most of the transports that we've mentioned, which for me makes it valuable because no one's really owning helicopters these days. Like,
oh yeah,
there was never a time period where people owned a lot of helicopters.
They pushed for it though, especially in like big cities like New York. They were like really pushing for like that to be like the new bus.
I didn't know about that.
No. There's like quite a big history about it. I think it is in New York where there was this like entrepreneur who was really pushing for like helicopters to become like the new bus, and he was trying to make like a new, like obviously it got shut down. They're way too loud, and you can't have like many of those. Like it's a bit of a risk in it having loads of helicopters flying about. There'd be way too much noise. But like someone did try and push for that.
Yeah, well, it's a shame that they're one of the most expensive modes of transport.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, things that add a new service that is valuable, very good. And also, a very marginal point in helicopters' favors over a plane is you don't need a runway for them. So the fact that you can just have a helipad somewhere and that's perfectly fine compared to a runway makes them in some ways better, but of course they're slower and so on and so forth.
I bet there's like, even in the UK, I bet there's like, we're a relatively small country, but I bet there's like a lot of communities that for like emergency hospital stuff, like they are purely serviced by their helicopter system because they're like remote, they're not near any big cities. Yeah, Because you see those kind of like those shows on TV where it's like, oh, helicopter rescue and all the things that they have to go out and do, and they do a lot.
And most of them are run by charities, surprisingly.
Oh yeah, especially like the mountaineering ones. I see their charity box when we go to climbing works a lot. They have their little charity box there for the mountain rescue teams that use helicopters.
It's an important service.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because
Big.
like you especially you like, do you know, if I was like out and climbing in the mountains somewhere, like I would really I would really benefit from. I would be really happy if someone actually came to like come save me in a helicopter. That'd be, needed.
Yeah. Although still flawed in some situations because they can't fly in too high wind speeds and stuff.
Mm.
But still, very cool, very, very interesting mode of transport. Also, it can give you, if you ever have the luxury of doing this, it can give you a unique way of seeing landscapes without damaging them.
Mm.
So when you go abroad, and there's like a mountain range or a canyon or things like that, you can take in a lot of the world quite quickly, but also in a controlled way rather than just flying past it like you would in a plane. You can kind of stop and look at things.
Oh yeah, I'd really like to give like a bird's eye view of even the Peak District. They used to do helicopter tours in the Peak District. That'd be really cool to see that from like a completely different view.
Yeah. Silver Plate?
Oh, Silver Plate. Airplane helicopter. I feel like we've got the same first place if you don't give the say, a different that answer as second place.
Be interesting to see. Interesting to see.
What's like? There's like loads of islands that are serviced by like, do you know, like one like tiny runway, and then those kind of like those little propeller driven planes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's loads of those like kind of communities. Their only like contact with the outside world is this kind of guy on a little plane
That goes out once a week, like the Isles of Scilly. Yeah. It does make the world very small.
Yeah, it's like isn't Svalbard like, does Svalbard have a port, or are they again serviced just by planes coming in and out?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Have to look at that.
Yep, we'll get it. We need like a person on the podcast that's like our Googler. We need our own like Jamie from Joe Rogan. Bring that up.
bring that up. Does this island have a port?
I don't. Number one, hairless chimps. Like they're jacked.
Have you ever tried taking DMT?
Number one, the best trip that you can have, DMT.
Whilst riding an elk.
What have you got number two? I feel like we've already done helicopter, airplane, so
I've put car second.
No, we were so close to greatness at having number one as both car.
I think the car is by far and away the best way of transporting a small number of people.
It opens up such a large amount of freedom.
There's no planning. If you've got the fuel, you can just go somewhere.
Yeah, like if you just feel like you wanted to go to the Lake District tomorrow, you're like, I want to go and do some hiking. You're gone. You're done. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to plan. You don't have to buy like a train ticket. Figure out where you're getting off at the station. How are you going to get where you want to go?
Yeah, there's no planning. It's just easy mode.
Yeah, because it's like like transportation, like train. You have to have another form of transportation to go and get to the train.
Yeah, and the car most of the time is also fun to drive.
Oh, it's so fun.
Even if you're driving a 1 liter like EcoBox, it can still be fun.
And there's so many like avenues, disciplines, and sports based entirely around the car.
It's a big part of culture.
Yeah, it's like everyone like kind of wants a car. If they don't have a car, like if they had a car, it would make their life better.
Yeah.
Like outside of like maintenance and stuff, just having a car improves your like quality of life, your freedom, and like if you need something from the shop, you don't have to break your back anymore.
Yeah. It's just little things all over the place that are just easier.
Yeah, because imagine how much, like, say you had to go and walk to like Sainsbury's, do a weekly shop, and then walk it all back. Like, imagine how much time like you would have lost over your life just having to spend the extra time just lugging all this luggage back.
Yeah, it's scary how much we rely on these things.
Oh yeah, like my freedom would be so more closed off if I didn't have a car. Like being able to like travel up to Scotland, travel down to the coast in the south is just a level of freedom that I just wouldn't have without like a car.
I can't agree more.
Yeah.
I've had so many good trips made by the car.
Yeah, I think the best day of my life, in recent memory, would have had to been like that drive out that we all did when we went up to Matt's and then we all drove back down.
That was a great day.
That was a really good day, and that was made entirely possible by the fact that we all share a love for two-seater
Rear wheel
sports
drive.
two-seater rear-wheel drive. But gosh, and I think that's another thing. Like, cars can be an expression of your personality.
Yeah, they're a fashion and status symbol as well. It's like wearing good clothes.
I'd say, like, for me, the ultimate status symbol is the car. Like, if someone passes me in an expensive car and I'm like, they're a baller, they don't even need to tell me. You know,
Yeah.
like they ball hard, and it's like you've got like, like music stars of Lamborghinis. You know, like if you're more businessy, you're like, oh, I drive an Aston Martin. Like they're kind of like a symbol of like status in that way that they like differentiate.
Yeah, like if you don't like driving but you like nice cars, you have an S-Class.
Mm.
And you can be chauffeured or have a Rolls Royce. So the upper echelon of cars is just so interesting.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, do you know, with like the expression of personality, like you can kind of tell what kind of person like is gonna be like behind the wheel just by the choice that they've made. Because there's so much choice nowadays with like what car you can buy, and what car like you decide to buy.
That's why you should never ever trust someone that willingly drives around in a noughties Nissan Micra.
Dude, don't
There's
tell
no
me.
reason.
Like, I kind of want a Nissan Micra. Do you know how cheap those things are? That can the cheap, fuel efficient. You can throw your bike in the back of them. They're just about big enough to fit a mountain bike in them. They're the perfect, like, I just want to beat this car to death till it doesn't drive anymore, purely because I want to move myself and things around.
Yeah, the only people that I see driving old Nissan Micras are Indian takeaway delivery drivers.
Do you know, Matt, S2000 Matt was like, he went to go and drop not his S2000 but his car, his brother's car that he's been using to drive during winter, and he went to go and drop it off for an MOT and a service, and he went up to, like, he was waiting to the garage to open because it was before work, and the guy who runs the garage was driving like a beaten up car, and he just drove into the wall and got out the car. Like he'd used the wall to like stop the car and then just got out. Imagine, like, that's not the kind of person you want to be like driving, like, you know, looking after your car.
No, absolutely not.
I'm gonna not name drop the garage.
No, we're not about that. I feel like
we're
we
moving
already
on to number one now, aren't we?
already know what your goal place is.
It's the Mazda Miata. Let's go. The 1990 to 97 Mazda Miata with pop-up headlights, perfectly 50-50 weight distribution, no more power than you need, pure comfortability. The engine sounds nice. It's nice to drive. It's rear-wheel drive. You can drift it about if you want to. It is the perfect vehicle, perfectly engineered. There's nothing wrong with it. Designed for the driver in mind.
A good car. It's a really good
car. I'm using this podcast to drive up the price of the Mark 1. I need my.
You
I
need a
just realized
return.
rust is a weight safe.
Said every poor Miata owner.
Said every guy who's like, I've saved up enough money to fix the rust on the car, and then I've got my clean Miata, and I'm happy. Then I can be like sitting there. I'm like, I've got my appreciating classic.
Put it under a little cover, and you got yourself a little nest egg.
Oh yeah, I'm looking for a garage for the Ducky Boys. I'm looking for me and the Ducky Boys. I hope they share it with me because the garages are expensive. But I just want somewhere to put it that isn't just like out in the weather.
That pesky thing.
Oh, dude, I feel bad now because I've got into my number one and I'm like, I'm just shilling cars, and we've just done that for like the past 5 minutes as well.
Just spoken about how much we like.
But just for clarification for our listeners out there, I did put car at number one. It isn't it, but the Mazda Miata is got a special place in my heart for vehicles. So
My number one.
I'm excited. I feel like it's like Elon Musk's Hyperloop.
It might be really anticlimactic.
Walking.
Walking.
No,
I put walking as number one.
dude. Do you know what? No one's like throughout that's the most historic mode of transportation.
No, even today, if there was one mode of transport that you took away from me, that is what would hurt the most.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why it's number one. It's
Dude.
not the fastest, it's not the safest,
No.
it's not the most anything, but it is something you can do anytime, anywhere, for free, and it will get you to where you want to be eventually.
Oh yeah, I feel like we've alienated a big, not a minority group of people who don't have legs.
Sorry, wheelchair users.
I agree. Would you argue that it's the most satisfying form of transportation? Like I'm quite satisfied after a hike.
Yeah, I like hiking.
I guess you could like transpose walking into like other forms of like physical transport, like climbing, running. Like,
It's very versatile.
oh yeah, there's nothing like to me that like fills me like it's like, do you know when you go for a run and you get back, you're all sweat and you're just like, that's nice.
Definitely. Runner's high is a real thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I love getting to that point where you're going for a run and then you just like zone out. Like nothing like you're just running, you're just moving, like you're just kind of looking and you're out like you're zoned out of like you're just running, you know? There's
It's
nothing
one
else
foot in
going
front of
on.
the other.
Oh yeah. That was a real thing that improved during lockdown. I definitely in a majority group of people here where my running improved because I started, and my health improved because I started running during lockdown.
Yeah, I ran a bit. I ran two half marathons at the beginning of lockdown just because I'd never done any long distance running before.
Oh yeah, you impressed me a lot when you told me that. That's amazing.
And I was so done after that because I didn't train for it. I just did it. And I think they took me like about 3 hours, like 3.5 hours.
That's really good. I'd say that's.
It's fine until you realize that people run marathons in 3 hours.
Oh yeah, but for saying like no training, just going for it. Were you like constantly moving or did you have to break a few times?
I set myself the rule that I would keep moving, and I ended up walking a large part of it.
Oh yeah.
But no breaks.
Because I remember doing that like 5 for 5 challenge at the start of lockdown, and that's what really got me running. And I just like ran a 5K like once a week, and I was just like, yeah, like it got easier every time, and it was like really nice. I just got to the point where I was like, it was relaxing to just run a 5K. I could just do it. I wasn't that like I was sweating. Like it was like something physically challenging for me at the beginning, and it was like hard, but. Do you know when like you got through it and it just got easier, and then I really started to enjoy running?
No, running is definitely highly enjoyable for me.
Oh yeah, It's very like cathartic.
And there's also the very primal thing about running, where it's just this is the fastest thing I can do in my ape brain,
Mm.
whereas everything else is artificial in some way.
Mm. And you've always got something to like shoot for. Like, do you know, even if you don't have like a stopwatch, you don't really know how long you're running for, like you can just run a bit further every time you go. Like you don't need a coach, you don't need a guide, you can just like it's very natural to just go out for a run and then just keep going further like every time.
Yeah, I would 100% agree.
Because like I kept doing this 5K and I was like, I just want to run the 5K quicker. I just want to do it a bit quicker every time. Because I remember like getting it under half an hour for the first time, and I was like, that felt really good.
I remember getting to a similar level of performance when I was getting ready to do the 3 Peaks challenge, and I just felt so good about myself every time I got 30 seconds faster at a 5K. Because I just knew it would be so important on the day.
Oh yeah, definitely. My goodness, I've brought up the 5K run like world record.
20 minutes, 19 minutes?
13 minutes and
Holy.
38 seconds I've got here on the wiki page.
What average speed is that?
Actually, wait, that is only for the men's 40 age group. Do you know why it's classified like that? That's weird. Yeah, men's
I've got
41 years old, running the 5K at 13 minutes and 38 seconds. That's a challenge.
I've got a Ugandan runner, Joshua Cheptegei. Has a time of 12:51 for a 5K.
That's insane.
Yeah, that makes me feel pretty slow. Because I think I hit 25 minutes once.
I saw the guy, I don't know if he still has the world record for the marathon, but he was out training like in these mountain ranges. I don't know where it was in Africa, but they were training at like a crazy altitude. So when he like came down to like Earth, like his lungs were just found it a lot easier to do like marathons and stuff at that level because he was training at such a high altitude.
Yeah.
So he was kind of trying like ticking like the training weights off. But man, dude, I respect your like your list. I think my list having the Segway at number 10 was a bit of a shaky start compared to your list, but I think we had some really good lists.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting to see why you put things where you put things.
Yeah,
because
like we intertwined once with the motorbike. We thought the motorbike was adequately rated at number 6,
and we kind of put helicopter plane at the same place.
Oh yeah,
I made it 2 and you made it 1.
No, I had car at 1.
No, I mean I made helicopter 2 things.
Oh yes, you did.
So yeah,
and it was a bit strange that we both declassified boats into subsections when everything else had to be umbrellas.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Oh, dude, but there you go. There's our top 10 lists for what we thought was the greatest top 10 modes of transportation of all time. I had the car at number 1, and Scott had walking at number 1.
Like a beta male.
But right, you can find us on all good, streaming platforms. I'm sure actually you've already found us on our good streaming platform. Keep tuned for more episodes. We'll be doing top 10 lists, and I will be personally interviewing my friend George, who is a student animator, and he's going to talk about his life doing animations from a young age and the kinds of things that he's been doing as a student animator and the projects he's been doing with the companies in the local area. So I hope you can tune into that interview. I'm sure you'll find it really interesting to learn more about animating and animation as someone who started out and who's someone who has then molded themselves into a pretty good animator.
And now time for our sponsor, Honey. Just kidding.
Find your mum, find your dad, find your sister, put Honey on everything.
Yeah. Well,
oh god, we're not sponsored by Honey.
They do want
we'll
to
shell out soon to make some dough. But
yeah, well, thanks for having me on.
Right, yeah, I'm glad. Come back, do more top 10s with me. That'd be beautiful.
Do more top 10s. Yeah.
Do more
Cool.
top 10s. All right, everyone. Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.